So today we are here to talk about touchless openings, or basically hands-free openings. And this is going to be a very high-level introduction. We're not going to get into too much detail on individual devices or individual components. And you'll see as we go through this, we're really talking about, we'll talk mainly about two different scenarios. One is basically an unlocked opening, and then another scenario is where it is a locked opening and you're wanting to have access control as well as no touch involved. So we'll be talking a lot about automatic operators, because that's basically what's going to be opening the door and managing that opening. So still by way of introduction, I want to introduce you to our access control support team. Many of you know Brenton because he's been doing these webinars over the last few weeks. He's based here in Houston, and Brenton, you've been with us for a little over a year now, is that right?
Yeah, a year and 21 days.
Oh wow, you have it down to the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been here for almost 9 years, the company, but
you got me by a little bit.
So yeah, Brenton came on specifically as a support person for access control. And so he is really here to support you, our customer, in any of your access control projects, really there's nothing too small or too big. And I know, Brenton, in the past, you've worked as an integrator and you've done all sizes of projects, right?
Right. I've seen enterprise down to standalone systems. Some of the enterprise systems were very large, with databases with give or take a few 100,000 users. Really, really large databases over the years, all the way down to the small ones.
Yeah, so Brenton's contact info is there, email and phone extension. Feel free to reach out to Brenton with any questions you have. I know you've walked some customers through their first project, really start to finish, right?
I've helped with making it clear for some customers, wiring diagrams, just however I could help. Just try to make it work with the customer.
Okay. And then also, Jamie Frederick has been with Flake for, I think, almost 2 years now, maybe a little more than 2 years. And he has been, he's been a locksmith for, I think, over 40 years and really focused on access control for the last, decade or dozen years or so. And so he's also, he's an inside salesperson based in our Jacksonville branch. But you can feel free to reach out to him as well for access control support. So, and then just briefly about our company, because we've been growing a lot and changing. Just a quick overview of the brands and the locations. We are now Flake, International Key Supply, McDonald Dash, and H.E. Mitchell. We're a combined force of those four, and we have 5 locations: Houston, Texas, Farmingdale, New York, Memphis, Tennessee, Jacksonville, Florida, and Portland, Oregon. So, and in combining all those businesses, we're all on the same freight policy. We have a $100 order minimum, and anything under that is a flat $9.95 ground rate. So Brenton, if you'll kind of monitor the chat, because I'm not really watching it, and just let me know if anything pops up.
Okay.
Feel free, anybody questions anytime throughout this, just shout it out there in the chat. So as far as touchless openings, these are the main points that we're going to look at. And again, this is really an introduction, not a whole lot of technical. This is more kind of understanding from kind of a 30-foot view of how touchless opening works and what some of the options are. So we'll talk about, low versus high energy, what the difference is there. And we're really only talking about low energy operators today. We're going to talk about the benefits of a no-touch or hands-free opening, applications where this is likely to be requested, or opportunities for applications where this can be sold. We'll talk about the two main scenarios, basically an unlocked opening and a locked opening. And then we'll talk through the components that are involved in those two different types of scenarios. So what is the difference between a low energy operator and a high energy, or what's also referred to as a full energy door operator? So for low energy, one main difference is that the door can be automatically opened, but it can also be manually pulled open. You know, with this type of operator attached to the door, that doesn't hinder somebody from still actually manually opening it. But there can be what's called a knowing act from a device such as a button or a switch that will initiate that operator to then open the door. And we're going to talk today about obviously switches where you don't have to touch it. There's not a button that you're actually, your hand or your elbow or anything is touching. So we'll focus on hands-free devices. You know, and of course, the added benefit is that, you know, for these low energy operators, they are ADA compliant because it's not a fast opening. So a lot of times this, you know, this can be tooled in a way that the door will open in compliance with ADA. So on the other end of the spectrum is high energy or full energy operators. You know, these are typically not doors that you would be trying to manually open. You know, this is more of a quick operating and continuously operating automatic operator. And a lot of times, you know, this is more sliding doors that you see at the entrances for supermarkets or convenience stores, or, you know, other types of retail stores. And a lot of times that this is just a completely different type of, not necessarily a pull type of opening. So anything to add there, Brenton?
No, I mean, you would see the high energy door operators at the Walmarts and Best Buys. They're low energy and the high energy they're similar but different. You'll be able to have sensors on both. If you ever notice the motion sensor above some of the low energy operators, there may be a sensor. It'll be a black device on the egress side of the door, and that's a safety feature. If anybody has ever noticed it, if the door was closing as you were walking through it, that sensor would pick you up, and the door would open so it wouldn't hit you trying to close. But yeah, they're both they're similar, just operate a little bit differently. You'll find them in two different places.
Okay. So now let's talk through the benefits, you know, and really this is kind of the selling points of why somebody would want to go to a touchless opening. And the obvious one, and the one, you know, the main reason why this is going to become, if it has not already been requested, it's going to be in high demand. Yeah, right. In high demand, thank you. Is the fact that, you know, it just eliminates people from touching the door and eliminates that transmission of germs and viruses. And so it's really the health and the safety aspect of reducing the amount of touching out in public. So that's the primary benefit, you know, but also it's just, there's other reasons for no touch openings. You know, a lot of times in a work environment, there may be a door that needs to automatically open because people are carrying objects, you know, maybe even within a warehouse where there's carts that are being moved through a door. Just going to be much better if it can be a hands-free opening. And then obviously we already talked a little bit about ADA compliance, but, you know, for those with disabilities, it allows it opens the door automatically for them. And then the last thing is it's just a nice touch. If this is going in an office or retail environment, it's just nice to have that convenience of the door automatically opening. And so what are some of the applications that we're likely to see this in? And then also what types of openings? So of course, retail, restaurants, churches, office buildings, schools, hospitals, hotels, and really any public space. You will see more and more of these no-touch openings being requested and being installed. And we think there'll be high demand in bathrooms as well as just main entrances or hallway entrances, and even in some office stores and as well as classrooms. And so the two main scenarios that we're going to look at and talk about is, basically without access control or an unlocked and unlatched door. And then really the only things that you need for that is you'll need to have power to the door. You'll need to have some type of touchless switch, and then there'll be an automatic operator. So, very simple. It's really the switch that will then actuate the operator to open. And then kind of on the other end of the spectrum is a door that is locked and you do want to have access control to it. So you then need to have either some type of standalone or a connected controller. And then you need a credential that is touchless, which could be a proximity card or a fob. It could also be, some type of Bluetooth credential on your phone. And then there's also some biometric readers that do not require a thumbprint, but it's actually, facial recognition, as well as there are, palm print recognition biometric readers where you don't have to actually touch anything. So those are the different types of credentials that we'll talk about. And then other components that you would need within that is you need a relay board in order to control the timing of retracting a latch and then triggering the automatic operator. Because there needs to be that sequence of events rather than everything just triggering at the same time. So, and there may be scenarios that kind of fall in between these two categories, but really we felt like just to touch on these two. This is kind of the two main ones. And then, yeah, of course, there may be something that is in between.
Yeah, so there'll be some in betweens. Right.
So yeah, so first we'll just go through and we'll talk about the very basic an opening that does not have access control, but you're just wanting to make it a no-touch opening to where no one is having to pull on the lever pull or pull on a handle to open that door. And so we're going to be using the Norton operators really kind of as a primary example. We obviously sell, and there are many other operators on the market, whether that's LCN or Falcon, DTEX, Dorma. Norton's just done a really good job of kind of providing information that's easy for us to use and share. As well as we really feel like the Norton 5800 is just a great device for if you have not done any automatic operators before. This is really probably the best place to start. So we're going to focus on that Norton 5800. So, but in any case, it's basically you select an automatic operator that kind of fits the amount of traffic and use that opening is going to have. And then you pair that with a switch that can then be paired with a radio frequency transmitter and receiver. So then you're not having to run wires from the switch to the operator. You're just having to provide power for both the switch and the operator.
And if you are a person who likes wires and can run, you can also use wires as well with the same switch. It'll be a preference.
Yep.
But if you like wireless, that option is there.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about this, but you can see here that the Norton 5800, it's in a good position that it is rated as a high use device, and it also has quite a few features. So getting into that, Norton has actually provided a kit that's now available. We sell these kits, but we actually don't have the exact version that is out now. We have it on order. The one that we're showing here, it includes the wave switch. The ones that we have in stock have a push button, basically the handicap button
Right.
switch. So these are, they're on order, coming soon. We actually have other switches available that we could basically sell in place of the handicap switch today if somebody was interested. But, so these are all the components that come in that kit. You have the operator, the battery, all the screws and tools, and all the screws needed, as well as the plates. And then Brenton, if you want to talk a little bit about the power options.
Okay, for the 5800 ADA Easy, there's two options. You can use the regenerative power option, which means as you open the door, it creates power and it stores the power in the battery. So it is 5-to-1. So for every 5 manual openings of the door, you would get one automatic, one opening. You'd be able to hit the button and the door would open once. That's one option. The other option is this is a low voltage operator, does not require 120. It runs off of 24 volts and a plug-in transformer. And once you plug it up, it'll be supplied with 24 volts power, and it would always have power. I would always recommend having it powered, especially if you're using it in a high traffic area. You wouldn't have to worry about any issues with the door not opening because somebody didn't come in before the person who actually really needs it. So I would always recommend hardwiring it. And you'll see later in the video, we have a video, you'll see one in action. We also have a video on our YouTube page of an install, right, Travis?
Yeah, we do. Okay. Yeah, we have not published the video of the full installation video. That is coming very soon.
Okay, it's just the video of the operator. Okay, yep. You'll see it later in the slide.
Yeah, I just realized that Zoom isn't switching, but when you're talking, it's not showing you. It's just showing me all the time. So I apologize that you guys are having to stare at me while he's talking. I'll try to figure that out. There was one question that came in from Bruce that said, is the wave to open switch wireless or hardwired?
It can be used both. If you want to have a radio frequency device connected to it to transfer when the relay is triggered, you can have it tied into some radio frequency, but it requires power to function. You're going to have to get 12 volts to it in order to have it work. So I'll talk about it later when we get to the video. I have one and I have it with 12 volts power, and then I have it tied into the wireless devices that come with the 5800 series operator.
Okay. All right. So we installed the Norton 5800 here at our office on one of the, really this is the door that all of the employees come in and out of. We originally installed it with the normal buttons, the handicap button, the narrow style handicap button, because it's on the pole outside, if you can see that on the other side of the door. And we actually originally had it where it was not powered because most people were pulling on the door to open it. And then we did have, an individual in the building that was using it for, that was ADA, for the ADA use. But when we then just recently put in the wave to open switch, we also made the decision to go ahead and power the unit at the same time to actually hardwire it. So.
Okay, we have one more question from Bruce. Will that operate on a BEA switch? And yes, that'll work with the BEA. You have the option. You could hardwire back to the operator, or you can use wireless to the operator. I mean, it's a preference. But yes, the BEA will work. As long as a relay, you have some type of relay to trigger the operator.
And then one thing I would note here is if you see on this opening how it's glass above the door. I mean, the great thing about this, the 5800, the ADA EZ, is that, it really can go on pretty much any door, because a normal full surface operator would not, we would not be able to put it on this door. There's just nothing there to actually mount it to. So you can see here how it was still able to grab in this particular installation. So I think somebody raised their hand, and I have to admit, we've been using Webinar Jam and have not used Zoom very often. So I'm going to find how to get you in to ask that question. But, or if you, it'd probably be best to just put your question in the Q&A for right now, and we will answer them as we go. So there's one more question in there, Brenton, about the push and go feature.
Does it have a push and go? I'll verify that for you, Bruce. I haven't used it. I haven't verified that. I'll verify. I'll get the answer.
So, and then we have just a quick video after the installation of the wave. So. All right. So it's asking, Ray is asking, how are they in windy conditions? And I believe you can control the power. You go into the operator and adjust the power and the timing.
In the settings, yeah.
In the settings, yeah. So.
Okay, we have one more question from Eric. Will this touchless switch work with operators such as Record, Stanley? And the answer to that is yes, it'll work with others. As long as you have a switch that has a relay on it, it'll trigger just about every operator out there. I haven't seen an operator that didn't have a dry contact input, looking for a dry contact out there. So the answer is yes.
So, that is, we basically just talked through kind of the very basic opening where the door is not locked. For our particular situation, it's just a keyed door, and once it's open during the day, then it's unlocked, and that then it's hands-free from that point on. And again, that's just the switch and the operator. Very easy installation. So now we'll move on to talk about an opening that you do want to have access control at, and what are the different components that you need in order to make that a reality. So, obviously here you'll need to have some type of controller, whether it's a standalone controller for a single door, or whether it's a network system whether it's one door or multiple doors. You need to have some type of controller. And then paired with that is some type of reader that will take either prox or Bluetooth or the biometric readers that are out there. And then you would have the relay timing board that, again, we mentioned this before, but basically that will control the timing so that your locking device will trigger first before the automatic operator starts to pull on that door. That way there's no binding that may happen if it triggered all at once. So this is kind of an overview of all the components that would be need to be considered in that touchless opening that has access control at the door. So,
I got a question. What are examples of high, medium, or low use operator for the operator? So a low use operator would be if we have an employee here and they are in a wheelchair and they have their own office, you could put an operator that's for low use on that door because they would be the only person using that operator. So example for low use, I'll get straight to high use. Our door that we showed the picture of, it's high use. We have what? Well, we had 50 people or so every day come into the door, give or
yeah, I
take.
mean, I think here in Houston, there's probably, I think we have about 70 employees here in Houston. Obviously, we have all of our sales staff, or I shouldn't say all, there's a couple guys still here in the office, but most everybody's working from home now, all
Right.
of the office staff. So that door's not being opened as much as it normally would have been. But, you know, when we get back to kind of normal days, yeah, it'll be 70 employees going in and out all day, you know, for lunch and breaks. And yeah, it's used quite a bit, but
That I'm not sure if that would be medium use.
yeah, I think that would kind of fall under a medium use.
Medium use, right?
Yeah, I mean, if it's a door on a retail, you know, think of like a Starbucks or something, that's high use.
High use, right?
That's
right,
high.
right.
Lots of people in and out every day. So, all right. Did I skip? Yes, nope. Sorry. All right. Just again on just to kind of spell out the difference between a standalone controller, which really is single door. In the first two examples here, in Teleprox Blue and Master Lock, these are both examples of controllers that would then need some type of a reader to pair with it. Whereas the other two examples, there's this the Rosslayer vandal resistant, as well as the ZK Techo. Those are both readers and controllers in one unit.
The master is a controller as well, I believe.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
It would be a Bluetooth. You
right. So
Bluetooth.
You don't need to have any type of reader that goes with that.
Yeah, you wouldn't even, for the master one, you wouldn't see it. It would go in the frame. Typically, they'll put it where you can't see it.
Right. Yeah, and that's a fairly new product that just came out. It's, I think it's managed by the Vault app that manages their Bluetooth padlocks.
Right.
So, and like with the Teleprox Blue, the kit that you would buy with that comes with the reader, whether it's mullion or standard. So, right. But then on the right side of the screen where you're talking about connected controllers, you know, there's ZK, there's Rosslayer, CanSec, and others where it could be multiple doors, you know, single door or multiple doors that you're controlling. And, you know, so maybe just one of those doors needs to have an automatic operator attached to it, or maybe, you know, the customer decides they want all of them to have automatic operators and make it touchless. So, and just to kind of show you again, you know, these are the main brands that we sell as far as access control systems, and more being added, you know, all the time. So, and we've been running through a series of webinars, basically just kind of going one by one, covering each of these systems. So, and we'll make those available for people to go back and watch. And then there's still more coming up in the next couple of weeks.
We've covered three of the panels that are up there.
Okay. And then there's, I don't know if anyone is familiar with the SpeedFace Plus, but this is a new device that has just come out that is a biometric, you know, it's a facial reader, but it can also be a palm reader. So you can hold your hand out in front of it. and use the palm print as a credential. So this can be used several different ways. It can be its own standalone for a single door. It controls the door as well as, you know, the credential, or it can be tied into an access control system.
And run with software.
Right. And as of today, you know, it's set to where you can have, it has a capacity of 6,000 faces, where the face is the credential. And it's also has a feature where it can take temperature, it can read temperature at the same time. They're working on an update that would allow basically whether, if you wanted to set up, or if you had a customer that wanted to set it up to where it would grant access to people only based on the temperature or other conditions, whether that be mask, you know, if a mask was required and temperature check to then allow somebody in the door, their next software version is scheduled to have that feature. So then it's really no longer using it as a credential because those individuals, those faces are not already saved into the
Database.
device.
Yep.
Right. It's just checking to see if they meet the criteria to then allow them into the door. So does that, Brent, did that make sense?
Yeah, that's right. So let's just say the way it functions now, we couldn't go set it up at our front door for will call because you would have to be in the database in order to get a door to unlock or to get something to trigger. The new firmware that should be out, it should be out, and I'll check on it today. It would allow us to put it at the front door, and if your temperature is within the threshold 96 to 100 or whatever you have it set to, you could have it allow people who are not into the database, people, this may be their first time here, you could have it allow them in. It would unlock the door as well. So you'd have options. I mean, we're not talking about, we're talking about touchless, but the device also has fingerprint and pin capability as well.
Right. So, and Bruce asked us if we're going to redo or actually reschedule the ZK Techo webinar because we tried twice with Webinar Jam and it did not work either time. So we are going to reschedule it with Zoom. And we're planning on doing a separate webinar on SpeedFace Plus. So, because there's really a lot of information to cover there. I mean, we'll do one on ZK Techo Atlas software, and another one on the SpeedFace Plus.
Okay.
So we're going to wear everybody out with webinars.
Yep.
If we haven't already.
We're going to cover Bluetooth readers as well. It probably won't be next week. I think it'll be the following week. Well, we do Bluetooth.
Did I go too far? I'm confused here. Okay, sorry.
Right here.
So now we've passed the controller credential part of the system, and now we're moving into basically once that credential has been accepted, you know, what happens after that. So by connecting it to a relay timer, again, that will then trigger the latch retraction or releasing the strike, and then it will, based on what you set up in the relay timer, it'll then trigger the automatic operator. And just short video just to show how it looks here on the.
So the relay board, this is Camden's CX33 relay board. It takes a dry input. You use it. It has 3 relays on it. So you can use it to trigger the door to unlock first. If you had a second lock, you can trigger one lock, a second lock, and then have the third relay to trigger an automatic operator. This particular board, it has several different features. You can adjust the timing between the relays. You can adjust the sequence. It does a lot. And when you get into automatic operators, even some other applications, you can use this board. I'm pretty sure if some of you have dibbled and dabbled in access control, you've seen a scenario where this would fit an application for you. So a really neat board.
So then just to demonstrate, what that would trigger, how it would trigger the latch retraction in, basically in an electrified exit device. I'll show this short video. Okay. So, and this is demonstrating it on an electrified Marks device. One option is if there's already an exit device on the opening, there are retrofit kits made by Command Access that fit many of the exit devices that are out there. So you could choose whether or not you need to replace the device or just retrofit it with the latch retracting component.
Yeah. And this is a M9900 with the latch retraction kit from Command. As Travis said, I don't have an automatic operator here, and I am limited on what I can do and show as of right now. I'm working on it, being able to show more. So we're using the Seiko Alarm touchless plate, and I took the relay and I just cycled the relay power through the button into the exit device. So that's why when I swiped, when you use your hand, the relay triggers and it just unlocks the door. So in a real world scenario, you would take that particular wave plate, use the relay module that we showed in the last slide. You would have the switch tie into the relay module. That module would then unlock the exit device, and then the next relay would trigger the operator, which would then open the door. And we'll get to doing a little bit more once we're all the way set up. Do you have any questions? Send it on over.
Yeah, Bruce has a question in here about the relay. It says, how many doors will the relay do?
There's only 3 relays on that board. So there are, I would say, 1 door, because you're going to need, if you're going to use this board, you're going to need 2 of the relays if you're going to use it with an automatic operator and some type of electronic locking device. So if it's a door strike, mag lock, exit device, whatever your electronic lock, you have to trigger that lock first and then trigger the operator. So I would say 1 door.
Yeah, so all the components are basically one. You need that reader controller for 1 door. You need the relay for the door to then do the latch retraction and the operator.
Right. So if it was tied into an access control system, I would have the access control system's relay on the access granted trigger the relay board, which would then unlock the door, and then the relay board would then trigger the operator. So I would have that switch tied in to this board, the controller, access control panel tied in. Whatever you need to open that door, you tie it into this relay board. It would do all of the work.
Okay. Yeah, so again, now, just kind of an overview again of the different operators you know, whether you're looking at a low use, a really small operator that's just for an interior door, like Brenton was saying, an individual's office, up to a medium use, which is kind of where, or actually the 5800 is at the top. It is rated for high use. So, you know, it's great for that entry, the office building entry door, you know, where you may have 100 employees in and out of there throughout the day. But certainly not as heavy duty as, you know, the 6000 series, which for really, you know, really high applications, more like retail where there's a lot of people in and out. So yeah, so this kind of runs the spectrum here. And again, we're using Norton as an example. And this is, we obviously have other operators out there. And this is the beginning of a series. So I think we're going to do some other education, you know, and maybe we'll bring in the manufacturer from some of these different brands to go through really more detailed, more specific about their product lines.
Now we have one question from Rhino. How is the relay programmed or adjusted? This particular one, there's 3 buttons you would use to get into programming. One is menu. The reason I'm looking to the right, I have the board right here on to my right. So you have a menu button and you have an up and down button. So menu would cycle you through the programming modes. Up and down would allow you to change the individual modes settings. So for example, today I changed this one to the second relay. I made it the second relay last a little longer than the first. It's not a whole bunch to it. You would have to play with it and adjust it to make sure you have it right for your scenario. No, and
so
there
those
it goes.
Those are the menu buttons there.
Right.
Right. Okay. Cool.
And the good part about it, when the relays fire, when you get input, the LEDs light up. So if you need to test it, you can test it on the bench, at home, or wherever you need to test it, and get it set up the way that you want it to.
Okay. Any other questions? We're really near the end. Really, you know, last slide here is, again, feel free to reach out to Brenton or Jamie at any time if you have any questions about access control in general. Again, small to large projects. And then we do have an offer that came from Norton that we want to pass on to you. And we're offering any of their automatic operators, as well as the wave to open switch is 20% off the normal price, and that's through the end of May. So any other questions? From anybody. We'll give it another minute or so here, and unless if questions are coming in, we'll keep going. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up.